Hello and welcome to the coffee shop where I'm talking today with Nick Chapman all about the Alexander technique. Hello Nick.
Hi.
Just first of all, what is the Alexander technique?
Well, the Alexander technique is a technique that helps people to rid themselves of tension and bad posture that really causes back pain and even vocal problems for public speakers.
Posture is very important, isn't it? When I walk around, I see, originally it was a lot of young people, and now it seems to be everybody walking around crunched up, looking into their mobile phones.
Yeah, that's right.
So you've got as a posture specialist, you've got a good job, have you?
Well, the thing is that, one is kept very busy. The Alexander technique will actually allow people to continue to walk around looking at their phones, but just in a way that isn't going to cause them back problems in the future.
Okay, we've all heard of yoga. We may not have heard of the Alexander technique. Just tell me a little bit of background about what the Alexander technique is, perhaps if there was an Alexander, who he or she was.
Yeah, well, F.M. Alexander was the founder of the technique, and he developed it in the 1890s out in Australia. He was actually an actor, and he had vocal problems to the point where he was actually losing his voice on stage. The doctor said to him, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. If you rest, it'll come back." And that was true. So he worked out that it was the way that he was using himself that actually interfered with the way he could actually produce sound on stage. So he developed the Alexander technique, looking in mirrors and looking at himself, working out, what it was that he was doing that was so tense and so, interfering with his voice. And that's how he developed the technique, you see.
And who uses the Alexander technique? Because I was thinking what came into my mind then was cricketers and golfers.
Yeah.
Because posture in those two sports are incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely, and many other sports besides. I actually work myself with pro golfers, and they find it very useful for keeping the posture. And of course, the golf swing is so easy to go wrong. So the technique will allow somebody to get that edge over their competitors because it just teaches you how to use yourself so well. If you don't have a single golf lesson and you just have Alexander lessons, your golf will improve. So that's how good it is.
Good handicap?
Pretty good.
All right, I'm not going to ask you. I'm not a great expert in golf. So, if I was coming along to a lesson, what would I expect to happen?
Well, first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to stand you in front of a chair, and we're going to just take a look at the way that you're balanced on your feet. We're going to look at the general posture. We're going to look at the way the shoulders are rounded, perhaps, or where the position of the head is. And you'll find that with a lot of people, there's real tension in various parts of the body. It does tend to be different for everybody. Everyone has their own kind of problems. And so we're going to just, using our hands, ease those problems away. We're going to sit the person down, stand the person up, and then we're going to put them onto the table, where on the table they can just relax, lying down on their back. We support the head with some books, and we just put hands on, and those hands release tension, lengthen spine, possibly affect the breathing, make them a bit more relaxed so that the breathing becomes a bit deeper. And then we're going to put them back on the floor after that, in front of the chair, and they'll be amazed. They'll see they're a bit taller, they're a bit freer, and the muscles have released. And we'll just keep working in that way, teaching people how actually to carry on this good work themselves.
Okay, is there sort of an exercise people can do at home to see whether it's for them?
Yeah, I think the main thing to do is the semi-supine, which is what we call sort of lying down. There's a specific position that you lie down in, but you do that for about 20 minutes a day, and you will see the spine will lengthen, the muscles will release, and you'll feel generally better. And that is the first sort of thing that I always encourage people to do when they start lessons and perhaps before.
That's lying on the floor?
Yeah, lying on the floor with
your knees up in the air?
That's right.
And your hands on your stomach, gently on your stomach?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that lengthens the spine, does it?
It will lengthen the spine and it will release tension. And it's partly the tension and the contraction of muscle that will shorten the spine in the first place. So once you get rid of that tension, the spine is freer to come up.
There's a video of that exercise on your website.
That's correct, yeah. Okay. They just go to the semi-supine page.
Right, well, that website address is alexandertechnique.tv. What are the most important lessons to take from an Alexander technique in everyday life?
I think the first thing is that what we realise is that people take for granted their musculoskeletal. People look after many aspects of their life. They go down the gym, they want to pump up their muscles, get strong in that way. People are aware of the need for exercise. But there's a slightly more sophisticated approach that the Alexander technique offers. And that is an awareness that the muscles and the bones do not just work of their own accord. They are a mechanical thing that needs to be that one needs to have an education on. You can actually learn that, in fact, I need to carry myself in a certain way. Otherwise, I'm going to get problems. So I think the most important thing the Alexander has to offer is just to sort out your musculoskeletal, and that will make you feel much, much better in life.
And what about yourself? Did you have to do much training for this?
I trained for about 4 years in the end because I did teacher training as well as the initial training course. So yeah, I trained for about 4 years. I think it's very good to get a very strong training because it's actually quite a difficult technique to do, the Alexander technique. It's very, very subtle, so you have to work hard to be a teacher, yeah, for sure.
We've spoken about sportsmen and what they can take about it. What sort of people in everyday life can benefit from the Alexander?
I mean, we all have a musculoskeletal, we all have muscles, we all have bones, and we all have a brain. So, in fact, everybody can benefit from the Alexander technique. And in fact, I would recommend everybody should do it because we're all going to get older, we're all going to get back problems, we're all going to get different muscle problems, and there are days when we're all going to not be on our A game. And it's nice to have a technique that will push you back into a good place. Well, making you feel better.
We're in a very busy coffee shop here, and as we look around, we can see people with good postures, and we can see people slouching.
We can't really see many people with good posture, actually.
Okay. It shows that you know so much more about it than me. But what sort of damage are people doing if they're not thinking about their posture, or they are slouching in chairs?
Well, I think these days, with the age of coffee shops and mobile phones, what I'm seeing a lot of is real sort of what we might call a crick in the neck. You know, where you have the seventh cervical in the neck, these are being crunched against the eighth in such a way as to really cause a lot of real pain, and a lot of discomfort. The spine is collapsing, it's not lengthening in the right way, the shoulders are rounding, and this is causing a tremendous amount of problems. It even interferes with the way people breathe, and when people don't breathe properly, they actually have more of a tendency to stress, and so it goes on in a cycle.
Is it one of these, we often hear, don't we, about obesity being a bombshell that's going to have to be paid for by somebody in years to come. Is bad posture similar?
I think it is. I mean, I think obesity is quite a serious problem, and it's quite a different problem. I mean, I think I think really most people want to enjoy life, and most people want to be sort of free of pain. So I think it is quite a big problem, posture in the world. People get headaches, people get all kinds of quite subtle symptoms really, and they think there's something wrong with them, when in fact it's not something that's wrong with them, it's something that can be sorted out in an Alexander lesson relatively simply. But people go on for years and years and years and they suffer in this way. It's not necessary to suffer.
Because I mean, when I was a kid, you always had like your grandparents saying, stand up straight.
Yeah.
Have you got kids?
Yeah, I've got 2 kids, 5 and a 2-year-old.
Are you always on to them, stand up straight, don't slouch, or is that yet to come?
It's yet to come because, in fact, I mean, children are a good example of how our posture should be. So I always say, if you want to find out how your posture should be, look at the children, because they've still got it.
They haven't learned bad habits.
They haven't learned bad habits yet, but their parents are working very hard to teach them.
Right, okay. Well, maybe they've got one parent who isn't.
Well, maybe, if they're lucky. They're very lucky indeed.
Is the Alexander technique quite empowering as well? Is there some point when you stop thinking, right, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and it becomes just second nature?
Yes, I think that's true. I mean, it is very self-empowering. I mean, I think when I came to the technique myself, I didn't have much confidence. I was trying to be an actor. I was very rounded in my spine. I had very bad posture, and I wasn't that confident. When you learn to use yourself well, it's like your body is an instrument. And if you're using it badly, you're going to feel bad about it and yourself. So, yeah, it's incredibly self-empowering. I think everybody should do it if they're going to be in a corporate environment because they want to be strong. And I do get a lot of public speakers and a lot of corporate types coming just for that self-empowerment. Posture is everything in the way, if you think about models on a catwalk, they're all sort of hunched over walking down there, they've got this grace. And I think one of the best things that one can achieve in life is grace. And I think that's what the Alexander technique really gives you.
Somebody was talking to me about the Queen the other day.
Yeah.
Now, she's 90 years old. She walks down the middle of a staircase.
Yeah.
Not holding on to the handrails.
Right.
I know she's
Absolutely.
being filmed.
Yeah.
Perfectly still. There's somebody who knows about posture, and she's 90.
Yes. Well, I think traditionally posture has been something that has been people have been aware of it in those kinds of circles because there is very much a presentation aspect, particularly to being the Queen. Prince Charles also has relatively good posture, and I think that kind of posture that we're seeing there is a much more sort of, in a way, a kind of militarized posture. That kind of posture looks good, but it can actually be quite painful. What we're talking about in Alexander technique is a way of getting to a good posture, to a graceful posture, pain-free. You'll be surprised to know, you can imagine how much pain the Queen is in trying to hold those postures together and hold that sort of subtle, sort of non-smile. It's hard work. What we're offering in Alexander technique is a much easier, much more simple, much more sort of joyful way of achieving great posture.
For all we know, she could be a patient of the Alexander technique herself, couldn't we? For all we know,
I think I might know if she was. I'd put her on my website for sure. Yeah.
Fantastic. And do you have any muscular pain ever?
I rarely do. It's funny, just the other day I walked off from somewhere and I suddenly felt something in my foot. But in Alexander technique, when we suddenly realise that there is some sort of ache or something in our posture, we stop. And we just think, oh, that's interesting, and we then have a whole series of thoughts and processes that we go through to release tension in the area. I walked a couple of steps, stopped, I walked another couple of steps, stopped, and then I just walked off and the pain was gone. And that is the secret, really, is that most people have pain and they don't know what to do about it, so it builds up and gets worse over years. In Alexander technique, we put a stop to it as soon as we realise it's there, which is very quick if you've been studying the Alexander technique.
There's about 30 people in this coffee shop. I think if we did a straw poll, perhaps with the exception of yourself, I think every single person here would admit to having muscular pain of some sort or another in the past few weeks.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think the statistic is something like 85% of people will suffer back pain by the time they're 55. And of course, I'm an Alexander teacher. I've suffered back pain. I suffered back pain even as an Alexander teacher. I mean, when I was really pumping out the golf, trying to get my handicap down, you forget about your posture, even as an Alexander teacher. That's how serious it is. So I was lucky enough that I was an Alexander teacher, and therefore, or I am an Alexander teacher, so therefore I was able to go and fix it. But back pain is prevalent. We use ourselves, and if we use ourselves aggressively, and in certain situations we have to, like for example learning a new skill, there's going to be results, negative results. And so what we do in Alexander technique is we say, all right, we can sort that out. And what we do is we teach people to be able to sort that out for themselves. Otherwise, that back pain becomes a feature. And that's what we don't want. People that are in pain, people that have back pain, they're absorbed by that. So they're not free to go and enjoy life. It draws on their energy.
Well, as someone who's suffered from back pain myself,
Yeah.
I can tell you it is all encompassing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a drain on your resources as a human being.
What about computers? People sit at computers all day long now, and we can see again in our coffee shop here people sitting on computers.
Yeah, well, I do workstation assessments, which means I go into an office and I look at the way the person is sitting in their chair, the chair itself. I look at the environment from, using the principles of the Alexander technique. And it is extraordinary how the monitor will be too low, and that is causing them to collapse. And, and I'm just looking at it, and it might be that their mouse is over here, too far away from their body. So they're stretching their right arm out and rounding the shoulder. So I go in and I look at people at their computers, and there is, again, it's an epidemic. People at work for 10-hour days, 8-hour days, it doesn't matter. They're all suffering because it is actually, quite frankly, impossible, even if you've been studying the Alexander technique for your whole life, to really sit in front of a computer and not get a problem from it because it's unnatural.
There's,
so you do need something. You do do something about it.
If you look at phones on desks, often they're on the wrong side.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you put the phone between your shoulder and your ear, you scrunch up your thing, and then you type on the computer. That's like the no-nos in the Alexander technique?
Absolutely. If you work at a desk, you definitely should have a headset. You should never really have a phone under your ear. When I was much younger, used to work in an office and used to have my phone under my ear. I know the problems that come from that.
Okay.
It's a bad one.
Well, it's been fascinating talking to you. I've already said your website is alexandertechnique.tv. If people are interested in the Alexander technique, Is it best just to have one lesson, or will it take many lessons? Or how long's a piece of string, maybe?
Well, it is a bit like that, but I think the initial thing to think of is that the British Medical Journal did some research in 2008, and they concluded that Alexander technique was not only the best thing for back pain, but that in fact after 6 lessons people were getting the kind of relief that they hadn't been able to from other types of work. But I think that the thing to remember is that although we can definitely relieve back pain, usually within 3 to 4 sessions, certainly by 6, how is that person then going to stop getting back pain again? So if they really want to do that, then they will go on and have, say, maybe 15 sessions or 30, because it's like really if you're going to go and learn the flute, you're not going to learn much in 3 to 4 lessons, although you might be blowing the flute and actually be even playing a tune after 6. But if you want to go on and do it a little bit more sensibly, and get a little bit more of an effect out of it, then you'll need to do more sessions. But I find that actually people that really do the technique, most of the people that come to see me, they keep coming for a lot of lessons because it's just really good. It just makes you feel great. Everybody wants to feel great.